Today I'm finally getting around to putting this propane conversion on my Coleman. Is it a Coleman? I don't know what it is. It's a generator, 5,000 watt. I'm tired of running gas. Out here in Western Washington, we lose power quite frequently, and gas is just something that it's unreliable. You know, you can't store it like you can propane. You got to put additives in it. It loses its volatility. Propane sits in a bottle and there it lives. So there's a couple different variations of this. So like this one, for example, I've been using this for a couple years to run various things in the house, refrigerator, stuff like that when the power's out. Now this is one of these hybrid elite 4,850 watts. Yeah, that's total bull. It's just not capable of producing that much power, and in all reality, it can barely even run two refrigerators at the same time. So these have a regulator. These ones are sensitive to vacuum, so it's kind of like a vacuum secondary on a carburetor, where the more it sucks in, the more it deals with this diaphragm. The one we're going to install is a little bit different. Now, this carburetor is special. It's for this type of application. It's not for a conversion. So if we kind of look down in here, you can see that the propane line comes in the side of the carb, and this also has a fuel line that goes in somewhere in there. So this carburetor is specifically designed to run propane or gas. These carburetors are specifically designed to run gas. They don't have the ability to run propane. So in the conversion, you get this little venturi block that sits on here. It's really straightforward. You don't need me to explain how to do that. You take the air filter off, or show you how to do it. Take the air filter off, put the extenders on, put the adapter on, and then figure out which way you want your hose to go. That's it. You put it back together. So this has a secondary venturi. Now, carburetors already have a venturi in there, and if we look inside there, we can see our choke flapper. So gas and propane have different volatilities, different energy densities, and stuff like that. So you'll get a lot of people who will convert their generators like this, and then they'll complain that they don't run right. And that is because the venturi for the gas and the secondary venturi, it creates a low pressure spot that sucks the fuel in. So this secondary venturi is smaller, so it creates a low pressure zone in front of the carburetor, so it doesn't suck in the fuel and it doesn't run right. So if you did one of these conversions and it doesn't run right, that's why. You can't run back and forth. You have to take the adapter off if you want to switch back to gas. That's just how it is. Sorry if you experienced that. You should have done more research to begin with, but that's just how it is. These are not dual fuel carburetors. So with that being said, we have our block here. We have our fuel line, which then comes up to the regulator. Now, some situations you can run these, if you're just running a barbecue tank, you can sort of get away with that. But these systems are extremely low pressure, so it can actually damage that regulator diaphragm if the input pressure is too high. So you always want to run a standardized regulator off of your tank, just because it's only a couple of dollars more to get it, and you might as well just do it for longevity. There's nothing worse than being 10 degrees out, 3 feet of snow on the ground, and you blew out your regulator because you're cheap. So how this works is your propane comes in here, goes through the diaphragm, and then out here. There's also a bleeder on the back. The first time you turn the gas on, you want to hit this bleeder to allow some fuel to travel down the hose into the carburetor. Now this up here is what they call a power valve. It's essentially a needle and a seat, sort of like how a carburetor used to have, where this sets the amount of fuel that comes out. See, these are a fixed output. Since your generator has a governor in it that controls the throttle, it wants to run at a constant RPM. It doesn't vary. It wants to be fixed at that RPM. So this fuel output is constant. It doesn't vary. So this is something that you'll have to adjust later. They kind of come preset from the factory, to get the thing running. But you loosen up this screw, turn it in till it wants to die, back it out till it wants to die, and then you kind of find a happy medium. More on the leaner side would probably be more economical fuel-wise, but it's pretty simple. So you basically just drill some holes in it, mount it up, and now it's part of the deal. Now I put mine right here just because of the way that my generator setup is. It's kind of hard to get in there. What are you doing, Willow? So the kit comes with pretty much everything you need and a couple extra pieces depending on how you want to get your system set up. It comes with a straight fitting and a 90 here. It also comes with some fittings and a 90 here and a shutoff valve. So that all depends on your specific application where you want to put your stuff. What is that birdie doing over there? He's trying to take an air bath. This is why I can't ever get anything done in the shop. All right, so once you get all this set up, it comes with a fuel hose. This fuel hose connects from here. And let's see if we can drop it on the ground. Pretty simple. Just screw it on. Okay, now this end is going to go to the first stage regulator. Now this has a POL fitting for it. This is standard for all propane tanks. You know, even your barbecue cylinders will have a fitting like this on it, but it's this on the inside. So this is a standardized, this is an adapter that I had laying around for other stuff. Actually, this one may have come in the kit. I'm not sure. I got a couple of these. It also comes with a shutoff valve, which I'm not actually going to use. So here's some extra pieces it comes with, depending on your application. So this just basically screws into your tank. I've got 3 of these tanks here. Well, obviously there's 2, but there's 3. So this takes out any major pressure spikes and makes sure that your low pressure diaphragm doesn't burn up. So I actually have some fittings and hosiery that ties all of these tanks together. Just for, you know, this is going to last a lot longer than some barbecue cylinders are, but that's pretty much it. I'm not going to show the tuning of this. That's something you're going to have to figure out on your own, but yeah, propane, much better than gas in a lot of ways. But propane does have drawbacks. There are certain things that you need to be aware of. First, energy density. Propane does not have as much energy density as gas. That's, you know, should be something that should be pretty obvious. Gasoline has more energy per quantity than propane does. So you're going to lose power out of your generator. I think it's like 15 or 20% right off the bat because it doesn't have the right energy density. But propane's storable. It doesn't need additives put in it. It doesn't lose its volatility. You know, it won't blow up in your shed because of pressure, and, you know, it's much safer. It's easier to store, you know, all sorts of things. So one thing you do need to be aware of is, since the energy density is different, you do need to change the gap of your spark plug to make it, the closer together the spark plug gap is, the less energy it requires to jump that gap. Since you need more fuel, more propane density, you know, volumetrically to equal the same amount of gas, you need to shorten up the gap, because basically, to make a really long story short, compression and density of fuel has an ability to put the flame out. So the bigger your gap, the denser the fuel, the harder it is to jump that gap. And you can actually have enough fuel in there where it won't jump the gap at all. That's why if you ever, you know, worked on turbo cars or high performance vehicles, they will open up the gap and put in a much larger winding coil, because you want, you know, buco juice coming out of here. Now, your typical old carbureted, you know, can coil style vehicle, you know, from back in the day, you know, that's like 15,000 volts. That's nothing. You know, your typical modern vehicle, they're running 50 to 60, you know, up to 75,000 volts, you know, 75 kilovolts. So that's, you know, much more power coming out of the plug. And since these don't have, you know, coils, they use magnetos and fluxes and inductors and, you know, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't have the ability to just magically make more power. So you have to close the gap up in order to make this work. So with all of that being said, this is pretty easy, and I hope that this helps somebody. Although there's probably going to be somebody that's going to complain, because they always do.